What's up, guys? Welcome to Not a Podcast of the Impossible Life. Sitting to my left is a man who's only allergic to three things: cowardice, weak men, and soy milk. The former Navy SEAL, Garrett Hunkelbach.
It's not a podcast, but Nick couldn't help himself. Had to still do an intro.
Whatever, man. You know, if you're gonna do some good things,
what are we doing?
You still have fun. The reason we're here, look, you may or may not know us. If you don't know us, let me give you a quick little bit of background. In the last 10 years, literally 10 years ago, I was broke. I was unemployed. I was coming out of depression, like deep depression, alcohol dependency, and I had a kid and a wife, and I was living in one bedroom in my parents' house. So definitely going places in life. God bless my wife for sticking with me. But like, I was anxious, I was fearful, I had a massive scarcity mindset. There was a lot of things broken in the way that I was thinking and the way, obviously, my life was. So in the past 10 years, I did a ton of personal development work, but I was always missing that one thing. And I had an encounter with God, truly, where I just felt God say, my ways are better. And I was just like, okay. And at that point, I rededicated my life to Jesus. I went all in and was just like, if I'm going to be serving God, I'm going to run after him with everything I have. Garrett actually leads our men's ministry at church, which is how I originally came to know him. And, you know, when I first came into contact with him, it was like, oh, this guy's a Navy SEAL. And I was like, okay, well, what else is he? Truthfully, I was kind of dishonorable, but that's the honest truth. And
you've changed a little bit.
I've changed a little bit. Yeah, I've come to know a lot more about Navy SEALs for one thing, but many other things. But the point of me telling you this is like, in Garrett, I saw something that I'd never seen before. For me, even as a Christian, I grew up in a Christian home. I went to Bible college. Like, I had a deep biblical foundation, but I always felt like there was something missing. I suspected there was a way of living that was way higher than anything I had seen. And when I saw Garrett, it was the first time I really encountered somebody that embodied what I thought was possible. He was a guy who was living fearless. He was living completely bold in his faith, but it was practical and it was real. When he talked about what his time with God and read the Bible, he wasn't just telling me about a story he'd heard. This was something that was real in his life and that he had authority in what he spoke. So I was like, I want more of what this guy has. So I started paying Garrett to coach me, truthfully. And you always say I was your best coaching client, which is probably about the nicest thing Garrett ever says about me publicly. But
well, because you weren't with me for very long. And the reason I say he was the best is because I've only had a few clients like this, but Nick did a great job of it. For everything I told him to do, he would do it. He'd come back the next month and he had done what I asked and done 3 extra laps and was ready for the next thing. So it didn't take but about 6 months of that for you to experience a lot of change in you.
It wasn't long, but truthfully, man, my whole life changed. Like my relationship with God got deeper. My sense of purpose was just like awakened like it never had been. Became a better man for my wife, better man for myself, like disciplined, better husband, better father. You know, I literally just started seeing, of course, then I was better in my job and I'm a business owner. So like all my income started going up. Like my whole life started going up. And like, as much as Garrett would love to take full credit for that, I have to give him a ton of credit because it was what I learned from him. So fast forward, that's how this podcast, if you're not aware, we have a podcast called The Impossible Life. You should definitely listen to it. It'll give you so much to grow. We get messages all the time from people telling us how much it's blessed them, how much it's helped them grow, which is really why we're here. Garrett's a former Navy SEAL. If you don't know, he is the leader of our men's ministry. Like I said, he's an entrepreneur. I mean, G, why don't you tell him who you are? I mean,
yeah, so I'm a odds defier, I'm a chaos navigator, I'm a strategic problem solver, I'm a loving father, I'm a husband, I'm a good son, I'm a great son, honestly, and I have a fantastic father. On top of that, I get the privilege of leading our men's ministry at Elevate Life Church called Mighty Men, where over 300 guys show up every Saturday at 7 a.m. who are all just excited and fired up about becoming everything God's called them to be. I'm a business owner. I own multiple businesses, do construction, real estate development. I'm also involved in venture capital, do men's coaching. I have a rental management company. I do a lot of different things, but the most important thing that I always tell people about myself is that I'm about my Father's business. I know who I am, and I know who God's called me to be.
Yeah. And I mean, a little bit more. So you heard a bit about my story, but I mean, I've been married now for 19 years. I've got 3 kids. I've got 3 businesses. So I have a marketing consultancy. I also have a production company, and then what Garrett and I do together. And like Garrett, like I just have a deep passion and a deep sense of purpose in my life to see men restored to the authority and dominion that God made them, to see men that are fruitful in every area of life, that are truly loving, leading, protecting, and providing, doing what God made them to do. So anyways,
we're telling you about us because we really want to tell you about something else. And hopefully you already know who we are. Hopefully you've listened to the podcast. Yeah. And if you haven't listened to the podcast, you need to check that out. And you can also hear my story and Nick's story on the podcast if you want to hear more about either one of us.
Yeah.
But let us tell you, you're here at this point because you want to know a little bit more about Mindset Mastery.
Yeah. And so for Mindset Mastery, like I told you, my life just changed. And honestly, I just feel like it keeps going up. It's very humbling. I can tell you that I'm proud of my life, but I don't have a pride like, oh, look what I did. It's God's grace 100% that he brought Garrett and I together. But I know that that's not for me. I always say that I'm the first listener, and what I hope for my life is that I can inspire other people to think, hey, if he did it, I can do it too. And so with that thought process, I came to Garrett and I was like, dude, we started getting all these messages from our podcast. People would reach out to us, emails.
We've been doing podcasts for almost 2 years.
Oh, 2.5 years. Oh yeah, no, when we started
Mindset Mastery.
Yeah, when we started Mindset Mastery, it was almost 2 years. So for 2 years, we just did our podcast, did nothing but give. And then we started getting so many messages, and people were asking like, hey, are you guys going to do events? Are you going to do? And we had no plans to do any of this. And we finally sat down and we're like, look, there's people that are hungry for more. And for me, my heart is like, I don't want to just be like, look how great my life was. I want every single person to experience the growth.
In a humble way, you said, I want people to experience what I've experienced.
Yeah, exactly right. And so I said to him, I was like, if you had to, the difference is I've spent hundreds of hours with Garrett. And like what happens in those hours is you talk about stuff. And Garrett, I would just talk to him about
you're good at asking questions.
Yeah, that was one thing in our coaching I always asked. Yeah, so I would say, gee, and I would just put a question to him, and then he would sit there and he'd come back at me with something. And I'm like, where did that even come from? Like he was pulling stuff that like I'm not even joking.
Ask me the right question, you're getting a good answer.
Yeah, but truthfully, I mean, I'm a guy. I've been to Tony Robbins seminars. I've read Jim Rohn books. I've read all the personal growth and development stuff. And you pull something out, and I'd be like, dude, where's that from? And it's always from the Bible. You'd be like, well, it says in this scripture. And I'm like, dude, I've never thought to apply it that way. So I was like, look, if you had to teach someone to think like you think, and you had 12 months is what I said to him at the time. I was like, and you were going to do one topic a month, what would they be? And so literally we locked ourselves in a room for a day and a half. We got an Airbnb, and Garrett sat there and he came up with 12 topics, and we tried, I think he came up with more than that actually. And we poked holes, we combined some because we're like, actually these are too similar. And you came up with, like, these are the 12 tools. These are the things I use all the time. They helped you become a Navy SEAL. And in the answers that you gave me, these were the things that kept coming up.
And I'll just say on tools, I could give you the nicest weapon. I could give you my gun. I could give you some of the most craftsman tools. But if you've not seen what it's done in somebody's life, or if you've not seen what that tool can do in the world, it doesn't have a lot of value to you. And it certainly doesn't have any value until someone teaches you how to use it. I want to tell you about some of the topics we use in this, but I'll just say also one of the great parts of Mindset Mastery is you get these tools, but you get them alongside other people who are learning them at the same time, and you get implementation, right? Like we have 2 calls a month, and one of these calls is entirely focused on helping you understand, here's how to use this tool. Because I'm not just going to give you some nice tool and then, hey, go figure it out. Right? Well, the best part of this program, honestly, is the community and the implementation, where you can get on, you can ask me a question, you can ask Nick a question. And just like we take questions sometime on the podcast, I think that really is the best when you can ask both of us a question.
Yeah.
Because usually Nick and I will both answer the question, in between what I'm going to give you and what Nick gives you. Nick helps it be so much more practical and applicable. Between what we both say, it helps people really solve their problems. It helps people deploy the tools.
Yeah.
But we won't talk about all 12 tools, but what are just a couple tools?
Yeah, I mean, so like we cover identity and purpose. Those are two of the tools. And you might be like, oh, okay, cool. Well, look, the number one thing we get questions about, and we get a lot of questions, is about purpose. If you're the person that you just feel...
Everyone's wondered purpose.
Well, yeah.
It's Ecclesiastes 3:11. God placed eternity in the human heart. Every man and woman has wondered at some point on the earth, why am I here? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of smart animals out there. I've met some pretty unsmart guys. And even the most unsmart person I've ever met has wondered, why am I here? No other creature on the earth looks up at the stars and says, what's my place in all of this? It is up to man and to woman, to God's creation, to wonder, why am I here? And God actually has a purpose for us. This is Ephesians 2:10. God created you for his workmanship. When he made you, he thought of you, he made you for a purpose, and he created work for you at the same time. Every single one of us has a purpose. It's probably one of, I won't.
Yeah, you could just be.
It's one of my favorite. I love talking about purpose.
Yeah, but and I will tell you, Garrett's exceptionally gifted in purpose. But like, people feel apathy for what they do, or people have insecurity because they don't know who they are. These are really, really common things. If you have an inferiority complex, guess what? I used to have one. I can literally talk you through how to get out of that.
If you've been around like some Christian growth mind content, you understand that God has a plan for your life, which he does, and your purpose is actually to advance the kingdom. But you're wondering, like, what is my specific specific purpose.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite things to help people walk through that, both from what the Bible says and what Scripture specifically says about your purpose, to understanding what part has God left up to you. Because that's true. God's sovereign, man's responsible, and there's things that God has left up to you. So what choices do you get to make? You'll actually do a lot better on the test if you know what questions you need to prepare for.
100%. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people struggle with their confidence as well. And Garrett actually is the first person that ever said to me that discipline and confidence are sisters, because as you say confidence is knowing
they're healthy sisters.
Right. Yeah.
It's not everyone's sisters feel that way, but healthy sisters, they strengthen each other, right? Confidence is believing that you can do what you say. Discipline's actually doing it.
Right.
So when you become more disciplined, you become more confident.
Yeah.
When I talk to a man who tells me he's struggling with his confidence, what I know is that he's a man that's struggling with his discipline.
Yeah. And so that's one of the skills that we cover as well as principles.
We do talk about discipline as well too. And many times men come to me and they say like, well, I'm struggling with my discipline. Right. And I say to them, this is probably one of my favorite prompts for people. I say, if something horrible was going to happen to your family tomorrow, if you didn't get up at 4 a.m. in the morning and run a marathon, could you do it? Most men, like if their family was going to get killed because they didn't get up at 4 a.m. in the morning and run a marathon, any man with half of a heart would get up and make that marathon happen. So you don't necessarily have a discipline problem. You have a purpose problem. You have a reasons problem.
Right.
So we work there. You do need stronger discipline, but you also need purpose. You also need identity. You need confidence. And let's talk about one more real quick, and then we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, one of the big things. So people often feel stuck in life because they're not seeing the growth, or they're not getting the outcomes they want. And that comes from a lack of understanding of principles. I will say, Stephen Covey has a lot of very good things to say about principles. Garrett was the one who, and we covered this in my coaching, and we went way deeper in the podcast, and then obviously in what we do in Mindset Mastery, who really opened my eyes up to principles. Once he opened that up to me and I understood that principles are universal observable truths that dictate and govern outcomes, I was able to start identifying them. I used it in my production company and we 5x'd in 1 year. And while I'm not like saying, hey, that's for everybody, I'm just showing that when you understand.
It's the only thing you had everything else in place, and you were just.
Yeah, I didn't go get stuff that I didn't already had. It's just I started realizing why I wasn't getting the results I was having.
A lot of people have all the ingredients, but they just don't know what to do with them, or they don't get them in the right order.
Yeah.
Right? For example, principles, if you understand principles of flight, which is lift, thrust, weight, and drag, that's where you can get a 747 that weighs more than your house to fly.
Yeah.
On the flip side, if you go back and study history of flight, they were trying to make lighter airplanes. Right, they had airplanes as light as a feather, and they couldn't get those to fly because they didn't understand the principles of lift, thrust, weight, and drag. And those are just domain principles. It's something we get into, right? There's domain principles, there's universal principles, principles that govern all outcomes, there's principles that govern specific industries. When you know what governs outcomes in your industry, when you know what governs outcomes in your life, you're actually more encouraged than you've ever been in your life, because when you know that if I sow this seed, if I put this seed that God gave me and I put it in the ground this way, and I give it the right amount of water, it's going to grow. And that will encourage you more than anything I could ever say, more than anything I could ever do for you. Is when you have a great understanding of principles, you'll be so motivated to get out there and do the work. Most people are afraid of what's going to happen, or they don't think they know what's going to happen, and they're just half trying at everything. They're half trying at everything because they don't know who they are. They're afraid of what's going to happen. They're afraid they're going to fail. So they don't want to give a full effort, and they know they don't actually know what's going to make things work in the first place, right? When you know who you are, and you know who God's called you to be, when you have great discipline, when you have an understanding of principles, these are just a few of the topics that we talk about in Mindset Mastery that will set you up for massive success. And by the way, this is everything that we talk about in Mindset Mastery is biblical.
Yeah.
If you want to learn from the truth of the Word of God and you want to learn about it in a practical way, you certainly need to come check out Mindset Mastery.
Yeah, and so what we did when we put this together, we didn't want to just be like, hey, come on, and it's a 1 hour call where you just get to listen to us talk. Like, that is valuable. You're listening to other people teach, but you can get that on YouTube. You can get that all over the internet. We really focus on the application. So how this works for each skill set. And remember, these are 12 tools that will solve 90% of the things that you'll encounter, truthfully. So how it works is each topic has, or each tool has a 1 hour teaching with me and Garrett. And then we also give you a personal self-assessment. So this is
pretty nice looking document that each week you get a document saying, okay, here's how you apply this, right? And you can do this course as fast as you want. You can do it over 1 year, you could do it over 2 years, you could do it all in a month. But each topic has multiple sections where, okay, section 1, I'm
Yeah.
going to do this, section 2, and there's worksheets for you. You can get a lot out of the videos, you can get a ton out of the calls, and if you want to maximize, we've got even more for you to do where you can work through these worksheets.
Right. And yeah, that's exactly it. So after the call, you get a self-assessment. And the self-assessment is really to help you take what we taught you and see how well you grasped it. And then the second thing that we give you after that is what we call a training plan, right? And this is to help you bridge the gaps. Like, okay, they were talking about this, my understanding level's here. We're going to bridge that gap. And then the third thing that you get with every single topic is a personal application. What that personal application does is it literally gives you, do this. This is how you implement this into your life right now. And as if that's not good enough, there's 2 live calls a month where you can literally ask us both, hey, this is what's going on in my life. Actually, I'm looking at this tool. How can it work? And give us the specific scenario. And we'll literally tell you, here's exactly how you should be thinking about it. Here's the things that we would do. Guys, I will tell you right now, and once again, you heard my story. If you don't think having Garrett in your corner that you could talk to him, and I mean, I have a lot to offer as well, but I'm just going to talk about Garrett. If you don't think being able to ask Garrett for a live call and be like, Garrett, this is what's going on in my life, help me. I can tell you he gets paid by a lot of people a lot more money than we charge, like very, very many times over what we're charging for that exact thing. It's crazy.
This is an opportunity for us to be the people that we
Yeah.
want to be with the most. And I love
Yeah.
all the people that are already in Mindset Mastery that
Yeah.
we get to connect with and have a relationship. I know we need to wrap up. I want to cover a couple more quick things. Talk about who this is for.
Yeah, this is for that person out there. Like you know God, right? Or if you're young in your faith or whether you're mature in your faith, you just feel like there's something missing. You hear that you're supposed to have joy, peace, abundance, be an overcomer, and be content in all things. And what you have is frustration, sorrow, anxiety, fear. You're not seeing the things and you're wondering, I'm praying, I don't know what I'm missing. Great. That is literally why we started this. It comes from Romans 12:2 is one of our favorite scriptures. And it comes that your thinking is transformed through the renewing of your mind.
Become a new creature entirely.
Exactly. And that is really what we're here for. We're not here to build the kingdom of the impossible life. We're not here to build the kingdom of Nick and Garrett. We're here to advance the kingdom of God. And what we want more than anything is we want to see people unleashed to know who they are, that they are literally God's sons and daughters, that He's made them on this earth for a very specific purpose, and to have these people be unstoppable, that go forward and are truly the light that people see. They're the city on the hill because they live differently, because they know who they are, they know why they're here, and they know that God has given them a spirit that overcomes anything. And whenever you know how to think, and when you have the skill sets and the disciplines, think about your life. You don't just come out and know how to do everything. You have to grow up. You have to learn from others. You have to have parents that teach you all the basics of life and hopefully much more. But many people don't have that. And so what we're trying to do as much as possible is to be like, come in, learn these things, train with us, grow, go out and advance God's kingdom, be everything He made you to be. We're incredibly passionate about it, as I hope you can tell. But
last thing,
yeah.
Why don't we? I know you're probably there's some of you don't care, some of you care deeply about this, and we understand that there's all different types of personalities and temperaments, which, by the way, is one of the things we cover in Mindset Mastery. But some of you want to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
So let us show you what that looks like really quick.
Right. So this is School. It's a well-known program. Alex Hormozy actually bought into it, so it's a very well-known way for delivering content.
What I love about it is how easy it is to use,
Yeah.
not just on desktop, but I love that it's so accessible
Yes.
from your phone. So you can be like in a workout. You can go to be doing your workout and pull up these videos and start listening to videos while you're at the gym. It's as easily accessible as anything else you do on your phone.
Right. So each topic, we told you there's a 1-hour teaching, and the teachings are actually broken down into bite-sized chunks. So you can go in and watch like 9 or 10 minutes of a video or shorter and know exactly what it's going to cover. Then you go down to the bottom here, like you can see, and you click on Documents. When you click on documents, these are all the things that we talked about. It's the self-assessment, it's the training plan, it's the personal application, and we also put in some bonus material in there. So you can come in here and literally learn at your own pace, go as fast or slow as you want. This is also where you can talk to other members that are in the community. You can ask questions, you can be part of chat threads, and really interact with people and build relationships. One of our greatest joys is seeing people grow and transform in this, but also seeing some of the relationships that have developed, people that didn't even know each other, that are making an intentional point to get on the phone with each other once a week and help each other grow. So if you're looking to be all God's made you to be, if you are a person that's looking for your tribe because you want to grow and you know God's made you for more, please come join us. We would love to meet you, have you with us, and go out and advance God's kingdom.
We'd love to meet you guys. We'd love to spend time with you. If you've been listening to this video and you know this is for you, just do it. Come join us. I promise you'll enjoy it. I promise you'll get something out of it. Mindset Mastery will help you transform.